11 years old in 2012. I was able to move here with my mom, my dad, my sister, and my two dogs, Ozzy and Roxy. And this is the story of how I immigrated to the U.S. So my immigration story isn't the typical immigration story. Like, I didn't move here to better my life or my family's life, or because my past country had threats to me. I came to the U.S. when I was fairly young, and it was because my dad had actually had a job opportunity where he was able to come and work here, and me being an 11-year-old didn't have much say in the matter, so I was just kind of along for the ride, as well as the rest of my family. So coming to the U.S. wasn't a huge impact on me because I was still fairly young when it happened. When I immigrated, though, we knew beforehand exactly where I was going to be going to school, where I was going to be living, and I had already known the language, so there wasn't really that much hardship for me when I came to the U.S. And within 2 years of living here and having a visa, I was a legal citizen. And all of these things, as a kid, you have them and you think, oh, this is how it must be for everybody. And it wasn't until much later did I realize how privileged I was to have had all those things come so easily to me. It wasn't until I was about junior high or high school that I started learning about other people's immigration stories. I knew Hispanic kids in my class whose parents had come to the U.S. having wanted to better their family's experience, or because a lot of members of their families were experiencing death threats. And many of these people who came to the U.S. were undocumented and had come here by either overstaying their visas or crossing the border because, like I said earlier, I didn't know how long it could take to get legal residency in the U.S. It could take years and decades, and a lot of people just don't have that time. So, according to networkadvocates.org, Mexico, India, and China have the longest wait times for immigrating to the U.S. in the entire world. Wait times can get up to be over 20 years. And a lot of people wanting to come to the U.S. are doing so out of necessity, and they don't have decades to wait to become a U.S. citizen. And me, being an 11-year-old kid who wasn't fleeing anything to come here, was able to gain residency after only 2 years, and that's only then did I kind of start realizing the hidden racism in the immigration circle. So, having come to the U.S. young, I had my own share of negative experiences. Like, when I joined elementary school, I was teased because I had an accent. I'd go to the grocery store and they didn't have the name brand cereal that I liked. Just all my family and friends were back in England, and it was a little hard to adapt. But that's also kind of where my problems having immigrated to the US stopped. I wasn't held back in classes because I was learning more slowly than the other kids because I had already learned the language. I didn't have to take years moving from country to country to country to get here. It was just a plane ride straight here. There was no hidden legal loopholes or undocumentation, and no worry that I would be deported at any time. It was just, I'm an American now, and that was it. I was able to come to the United States as an 11-year-old kid and was able to learn about this whole experience of the American dream. And I didn't realize until much later that that dream isn't promised to everybody who comes here. According to the Detention Watch Network, in 2019, the U.S. detained over 500,000 undocumented immigrants, and they were all kept in the U.S. in over 200 jails across the country, which is run by ICE. Almost all of these people came to the United States to better either their own lives or the lives of their families, or to escape danger for themselves and their families. And now many of these people are either still in American jails or were forced to go back to those things they were running from in the first place. There's a part of me that was glad I came to the United States when I did. I was 11. I was able to accumulate to the accent fairly quickly. I was able to finish school and go to a really nice college, and now I get to study things I really love. And I've made tons of really good friends here, but there's also a part of me that can't help but feel a little embarrassed and ashamed when I turn on the news and I see our president, the person who's like representing our country, saying these things like all Mexicans are rapists and all Muslims are terrorists, and in the same breath is able to say that Nazis and KKK members are good people. It just fills me with almost shame. And thinking about it, I didn't really have much of a choice when I came to the United States when I was 11. And thinking about it, if I had waited to how old I am now, I'm not sure if I would have still immigrated to the US had I had the choice and known what I know now. According to the network advocates, the Trump administration policies to close the border and require Muslim asylum seekers to stay in Mexico contradicts our laws and forces people into dangerous situations, which has led to many deaths at the border. These are people running from dangerous situations, and Trump is keeping those in those situations instead of letting them into our country, which all of our laws say they should be able to do, and it's because of blatant racism. For years, the U.S. has exploited immigrant work and followed racist protocols to ensure that we can get every cent of immigrant work and get all the labor they provide without actually ensuring that they're able to make a life here. According to network advocates, there's a pattern that emerges from the history of our immigration. When the economy needs immigrant labor, immigrants are suddenly welcomed into the U.S. by the thousands. Just come to the U.S., it's such a great place, it's the American dream. And then as soon as we don't need that immigrant labor anymore, the restrictions go up, laws shift, and all this is to help allow those xenophobic ideals where it's like, if you're American, you have to be born here, except for the rare instances, in like my case, when I immigrated from England. When I hear people talking negatively about immigrants and immigration, I know they're not talking about me. They make it very clear they're not talking about me, because to them, all immigrants are rapists and terrorists and criminals and lawbreakers. But not you, Ava. You're different. But in reality, I'm not. My family came here for the same reason everybody else's family came here, to find a better job, to find a better opportunity for their family. The only difference between us is our geographical location and our skin color. So, the immigration system is seen as loophole after loophole for other people, for some people, and a complete wall for others, just an impenetrable wall. The immigration system that we have set in America right now has absolutely nothing to do with the economy or population capacity or just the lack of number of jobs, and it has absolutely everything to do with xenophobia and racism. So there's that. Ended on a pretty bad note. But yeah, thank you.